All right. So we are going to talk about affirmations. I'm just recording this in case anyone's watching it afterwards. If anyone has questions during this, please feel free to ask. You'll just be featured on my YouTube channel. I sound like a celebrity. I'm pretty cool. Like an influencer. I just started it. So if you ever miss class, you just hop on, you find the daily work, and you can watch the YouTube channel. Pretty easy. So can you guys see it okay? You're good? Awesome. Okay, so we're going to talk about negative self-talk. Now, everybody has negative self-talk. Some people just don't talk about it. I'm more vocal about mine. And that's okay. Days 1 through 6 are going to be due by Friday, but you joined the class late, so you just have to worry about the mindfulness project. Day 7 and after, to make it easier for you guys, I put the due dates on the Google Classroom so you can see when things are due. Is that easier? Okay. So we are going to skip this video for now, and I'll play it towards the end. If you are watching this video on the YouTube channel, you can pause me and watch this on the Google Classroom. So what is negative self-talk versus positive self-talk? Here's negative self-talk. Just set it wherever. Perfect. Thank you. And we're going to be having a lot of fun today writing some affirmations in class, and you guys will get to do that too. So negative self-talk is just, it's constant in our minds sometimes. Did you know our brains are actually wired to have negative self-talk? And it's actually an effort to have positive self-talk. So you don't have to think anything's wrong with you if you have negative self-talk, because that is natural for humans. I have it. Everybody here has it. You guys probably have it sometimes too. But positive self-talk takes work, and we're all capable of it. But here's some examples of negative self-talk versus positive self-talk. This is too hard, I give up. Instead of saying that, we could say this is tough, and so am I. Kind of that growth mindset, right? Tying that in. So someone might say, what's the point? There's nothing I can do about it. So feeling stuck in our situation, especially when we don't have control, but saying I may not be able to control the situation, but I can control my feelings, how I react, how much power I give this over my life. Some people say things like, I suck at this. So when you make a mistake, recognize it, own it, and say, hey, I'll try harder at it next time. And here's what I'm going to do to be better. Okay? So mistakes happen. That's part of being human. All that jazz. Okay, what is the danger of negative self-talk? Well, it's really just like a pattern. It's a cycle. So it starts with, we have some maybe negative thoughts or feelings, and then we get our feelings sometimes come out as behavior instead of just it's staying in our brain. And that's okay. Sometimes we don't know how to process our negative thoughts. So maybe we have a time where we get in trouble or do something we didn't mean to do, but it's because our brain was just really active. And then our behavior, sometimes when it gets like condoned or we get, I don't think this happens here, but maybe you got scolded or yelled at for your behavior in a way that reinforced your beliefs about yourself already, then it goes back to here. So this is a very important model for parents and people who ever want to be parents. And if you are an influencer of any sort, like me on my YouTube page, just kidding. If you're influenced by like little brothers, little sisters, or whomever, if kids have big thoughts and emotions, and they might act on those thoughts or emotions. And if we see their behavior come out and we scold them for their behavior and don't try to get to the root cause, then we're just reinforcing this loop. And they're just going to go back to thinking bad about themselves, right? And it just continues and continues. So if you have a child and you struggle with them, or maybe even you have a little brother or sister or a friend and you struggle with their negative self-talk, sometimes we just got to be there for them and create space, but just know that they might be acting out because of those negative thoughts. So how can we help them to rewire those negative thoughts? And maybe you're the person that struggles with some actions you're not really happy with. I know I have. So addressing the thoughts, addressing the feelings, and just like rewiring and stuff like that. Okay. You can still ask questions. I'm just going to kind of quick. So how can we stop beating ourselves up? So notice that you're doing it. Stop yourself in your tracks. Take a moment to say, that's not me. I am not my negative thoughts. You might not talk back out loud to your brain. Maybe you do, and that's okay. People might look at you at the grocery store kind of strange if you do that, but not going to say I haven't done that. But you can talk back and say words of positivity. So that's where the mantras come in. So if you have 10 mantras or 10 sayings or quotes, those can be things you look at when you're having a negative talk. And eventually it becomes part of you. The positive self-talk replaces the negative self-talk. I'm going kind of quick. Do you guys have any questions so far? No. So noticing the critic, I kind of talked about this already, but we always have this inner dialogue in our brain. It's like always going, right? So it's very normal. Much of our thinking is automatic, so it's okay to take time, like my mantra said, to slow down and process. We don't have to immediately respond to everything that happens to us. We don't have to immediately respond to every feeling we have, especially in like relationships. And I struggle with that. Sometimes you're in a conflict with someone and you're like, oh, I have to immediately respond, or we have to work this out. That's anxiety, and it happens. But taking a step back and saying, okay, I'm having this feeling. Why am I having it? How does my body feel? Okay, it's okay to have this feeling or emotion. I'm just going to let myself sit with this for a while. I think if we try to rush the healing or rush the process, sometimes it does more harm than good. So give yourself time to experience. The mantras are really going to help with those, with the negative self-talk. That does not mean we're not allowed to feel things like doubt, guilt, shame, worthlessness, anger, frustration. You are allowed to feel whatever you want to feel. But allowing yourself to say those positive things in response to your feelings and take time to, decipher the truth. Are you making a bigger deal about your mistakes than actually needs to be made? We're our own worst critic. So being aware of our inner voice is the first step. The second step, separating yourself from the critic. In all honesty, it starts with saying a simple phrase like on the right, that girl's carrying all that stuff, or guy, can't tell, on his or her back. And it starts with just one thing we say bad to ourselves. And then sometimes it just builds up like a snowball effect, I guess. It starts kind of small, gets rolling, the brain keeps rolling to the next thought and the next thought. And eventually it just becomes really heavy to bear. So sometimes it's helpful to kind of give your brain, like if it's overreacting or like going down a path of negative self-talk, giving it a silly name, like, oh, that's my evil self, or that's my inner, you could call it the inner critic, but I would think of some sort of name that makes you laugh, or that's my evil twin, or whatever you want it to be. So you can start to like separate yourself from those thoughts. Just know that you are not your thoughts. You are not your feelings. You're yourself, like who you are, all the good qualities that you are. But just knowing it's okay to feel things and to think things, but you are not your thoughts. You are not your feelings. Step 3 is to talk back. So the mantras are really important, or our favorite quotes or sayings, because if we learn how to talk back to our inner critic, that voice of positivity, or that voice that reaffirms us, can be louder than all our fears, louder than our worries, our doubts, our insecurities. And it's also helpful so you're not looking for those words from other people all the time. So we talk about love languages in this class. Mine's words of affirmation. So sometimes I need that in my relationships. I like that from my family and my friends. Yet it's very important that I find words that I can give to myself that make me feel worthy, beautiful, and loved. Because if you're always looking for someone else to do that for you, you'll always be dissatisfied, no matter how good a partner, no matter how good a family member they are, right? We find that within ourselves. What else we got? Step 4, replacing the critic. So create an inner voice that's like your best friend. Somebody that builds you up, says positive things, but it's actually just you. They build you up on your rainy day or your stormy day. They help you see the positivity in things. That inner voice might just be a comforter or a support, right? It allows you to feel how you need to feel, but it says, hey, I'm here for you when you're ready. So we have something called the automatic selective filtering system, which is a part of the brain that seeks out environments that match up with our beliefs about ourselves. So if someone thinks negatively about themselves, they may hang out with the wrong people, and that can reinforce their negative thoughts. Something good to reflect on. So always saying negative thoughts to yourself causes them to become true because we become fixated on them. So if you always tell yourself you're bad at something, or if you tell yourself you're ugly or stupid or whatever, that will become, you don't really change physically necessarily, but you might stop taking care of yourself, right? If you're constantly telling yourself, well, I'm so ugly, or my hair always looks like this. Okay, next thing you know, maybe you're not washing your hair anymore, right? Or I don't know, just an example. But if we tell ourselves lies constantly, we can start to that manifest within us. That can manifest within us. And sometimes, don't know why I clicked that. Hold on, I gotta turn the volume down. That beeping is gonna bother me. But if we say positive thoughts in place of them, we can start to manifest our true nature, our true selves. All right? Does that make sense?
Do you believe in manifesting?
I do.
Yeah.
I think if you truly believe something about yourself and can affirm it, that's step one, is the belief in yourself. I do think you can manifest anything. I mean, some things, yeah, it's based on luck. Some things are based on luck. But if you're the kind of person who says, well, I want to be better with money, or I want wealth and whatnot, I think if you tell yourself I'm capable of saving, I'm capable of making smart money choices, I think you'd surprise yourself with how much wealth comes to you. But I think manifesting also means you're not only like asking for it, when you repeat it in your brain, I can be wealthy, or I can be powerful, I think you start taking the steps to be that. Does that make sense? Versus someone who says like, I'm so bad at whatever subject. Okay, well, if they keep telling themselves that, they're probably going to stop studying for it and stop going to class and stop working at it, right? Because they're reinforcing the negative thought. So just like that little thing said, if I have positive thoughts and feelings about who I am and where I'm going, that's going to create the behavior and the motivation behind my actions. And my actions can get me to success. So my behavior will then reinforce the thoughts. The behavior could be a good behavior, right? So I think this is kind of like a wheel of manifestation, to be honest. Yeah. Do you believe it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not necessarily like, I know some people it's within maybe their spirituality, or for me, it's not even that. It's just, I think our thoughts can become our actions if we truly believe in ourselves. So, but yeah, there's a lot of words on this slide, but essentially, if you can step in and interject a negative thought with a positive one, or a thought of support and compassion towards ourselves, it can start to replace the negative thought. Our brains are very malleable, especially at you guys' age. As you get older, they say the brain isn't as malleable, but I don't know if I 100% believe that. I think the brain is always changeable. We have something called, our brains are kind of like plastic. So it's called neuroplasticity, which means they can actually reformat and change, which is kind of cool. So even people who have been through like traumatic situations or bad life stuff, they could be like, well, I've had all this stuff happen in my life. Like I'm destined to keep having bad stuff happen to me, or I'm destined to not do well at stuff because of this, this, and this. If you change around your thoughts, our brains, they're like plastic. We can form them differently. I mean, they're gonna have the same shape kind of, but we can reform our thoughts and the structure of our brain and completely transform our life despite our situations. It takes a little bit of effort. It's possible. So this is awareness. This is just like a step-by-step little process, but essentially some people say, well, how am I supposed to know if my brain is thinking negative? Like, how do I catch my brain in its tracks kind of thing? So this is a little way they say you can do it, but In all honesty, I like the note card one. So if you are a person who constantly has a thought come up and you're like, oh, wow, I'm noticing that I'm saying that more and more, just putting like a tally on the note card every time you have that thought. And then at the end of the day, you're aware like, wow, I'm having that thought a lot. And then what could be a mantra or a statement that is the complete opposite of that? So if you're a person that's constantly saying, I'm not attractive, or comparing yourself to other people, starting to write out like, I am beautiful in my own way, my own shape, my body's beautiful. And I think as we kind of write that down, it can start to combat that negative one. Awareness is the first step though. So we have to recognize in ourselves the negative self-talk. Negative thoughts can also be saying like, I have to, I should have done this way. I wish I could go back and do it differently. Those are technically negative self-talk. It's okay to recognize where a mistake might have been in the past, but are you constantly dwelling on it like, I should have done it this way, I should have done that? At a certain point, that doesn't serve us. If you have things in your life that like you think of, I have to do that, like I have to study to get good grades to graduate so I can get a good job, I have to do those things. They say if you start thinking of it like I get to do those things or I have the opportunity, you manifest success right there. So I've been working on that because I'm not the best at that, but I'm working on it. And that's step one. So there were a lot of words on there. I kind of summed that up in my own words, but if you want to read through it more detailed wise, what do you have to do for today? You might be wondering. Well, we got a few things. So I wrote kind of in order that I think makes the most sense is doing this practice positive self-talk Google Doc. And it's similar to the growth mindset. So you're going to take the statements and you're going to rewrite them in a more positive fashion. So a way that helps manifest greatness. Okay. I think you guys probably know how to do that. So I'll skip the next one. The letter to myself, you can do this on paper if you're in the classroom, or you can do it at home on your computer. You're going to write a letter to yourself that you can, pull out of your backpack or your purse or wherever on your darkest days. So if you have a day that's kind of rough and you need to remind yourself of who you are and the great things that are within you, that's what the letter is about. It doesn't matter how long it is to me. Whatever works for you works for me. There is a meditation I put on here that I'm going to be, I don't know, I might play that one or I might lead you through it. I haven't decided yet towards the end of class. Since we're doing our 10 affirmations, I might skip this TPT thing and have you guys just do the day 7 journal today. But of course, it depends on what term you're in and what term you're watching this video. But for this term 4, right? Yeah, I think I'm gonna skip this. The journal, I cannot remember what was on it. So let's take a look here. This is about taking a moment to reflect on any repetitive negative thought patterns. So this deals with awareness. I want you to think about today, what are some of the negative thoughts that are going on in my mind? And how do I think it came about? So where do I think it came from? Maybe it was a childhood experience. Maybe it was from a past relationship or friendship. Maybe it's just something I've always struggled with. And what is a positive thought or mantra I could say in its place? Which this should be pretty easy because most of you thought of a mantra yesterday that you want to use. There are a ton of different mantras though in day 4. So you can look at the 99 mantra examples on day 4. But I think I'm going to have you guys start working on it. And if you're watching the replay, you can ask me questions. If you're at home, I'd say I could get you a mason jar to put your affirmations in, but you could even just put them in an envelope your 10 affirmations, whatever works best for you. And that's the recording.